Cheers to Micah.
Cheers.
To our second month of episodes.
It's going to get real spicy.
Oof.
So what are we drinking today? We're drinking, it's called The Beach by Whispering Angel.
Okay, it's a very pretty bottle.
It's a nice bottle, but
the wine's not good. You're talking about the bottle.
It tastes nasty.
It's not it. It's not it. But shout out Inglewood Branded. Corey, I see you doing your thing. Always
I love
a supporter.
them.
So sweater by Inglewood Branded.
Don't buy the wine.
All right, so we're back, Ed and Theresa. I hope y'all are doing good. You see those whiteboards?
Yes.
Oh, no.
It's time for some whiteboard action, okay?
Ooh, these always get us in trouble.
Now, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Just write your answer, and we're going to go from there.
Okay.
So question number 1. Biblically speaking, do you agree with abortion? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No and no. All right. Let's go ahead and erase that. Get ready for question number 2. This is the moment of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Personally speaking, you as your person, Ed and Theresa, do you agree with abortion? Oh, she. Theresa said yes. No countdown because she already flipped. And Ed said sometimes.
Sometimes.
Okay, I can respect that.
I want to hear this.
All right, and number 3. Should the church
Oh, Lord.
and the government have say when it comes to a woman and her body? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No and big astounding no.
No.
I love that.
No.
All right. All right, so we're back, and it's time to talk about abortion. Okay? We already talked about, biblically speaking, we don't agree with abortion, correct?
That's
Right.
correct.
Okay.
Like, biblically, you are not supposed to be having abortions.
Okay. So, why are y'all's answers personally different than biblically? Because you said yes, Theresa, and Ed, you said sometimes.
Okay. I'll start with this. So biblically, I believe Jeremiah 1:5 talks about before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. And so God already has a plan, a purpose for this child's life once it's already been, conceived. And so that from a biblical standpoint, you are alive. My issue comes in with, one, I'm a man, so I don't feel like I should have any type of say-so in what a woman does with her body. I wouldn't want a woman to tell me what to do with my balls or something like that. Like that's, I really wouldn't.
That's
So,
getting clipped.
yeah, I feel like a woman should be able to make that decision. And also, one sin is not more important than another sin. Me cursing or me fighting or me, cheating on my wife is not more serious than me committing an abortion. So I feel like we can't just try to put sin into different types of categories and hierarchies. So that's why I said it like that. But I think it's different situations that occur where, it's up to the woman what happens with them if they want to decide to have an abortion or not.
Yeah, I mean, biblically, like, a lot of crazy stuff was happening. Like, you have to think about, like, Tamar being, taken advantage of. She was raped by, like, her brother. So, like, when we're talking about, there's a lot of crazy stuff, Old Testament Bible, like, it was perfectly acceptable to, like, sleep with your son's wives. Like, they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Like,
David
if that
took Bathsheba and kind of used his influence on her.
And I was reading that.
killed the man.
I was reading that the other day, and it kind of glosses over that.
Yes.
It was like he went to Bathsheba came to see him, and I'm like, did she really have an opportunity to say no to the king?
No, she doesn't have a chance to say no to the king.
Oh.
Like, the thing that people are always forgetting, they're like, oh, she was a hoe. She was bathing outside. People bathed outside. Like, that was what was normal. And then he looked at her and was like, that's the one I want. They're like, oh, she's already married. And he's like, that's not really my problem. Like, go get her. And so it's like there was a lot of things that happened in the Bible that were not optional for women. So just being able to be like, oh yeah, I don't really want to have this person's kid wasn't really an option. Now, historically, they've said that abortions have been happening since the beginning of time. Like they've been using teas and tinctures to like take care of the baby situation. That being said, we made it a problem when we started trying to dictate, when we tried to take it out of women's health and try to make it like a biblical issue. And that really just comes from the conservatives, like 100%. Like they just wanted a hill to die on, and that was their hill. So I think it's real strange that we're taking it out of a women's health context, and then we're just like, do we agree or do we not agree? It's just really, in my opinion, just really not our business.
Let me ask you something, T. So do you feel that historically it feels that people are trying to punish women for, that idea of, oh, you had sex, you're loose, you're a hoe, you got to pay with the consequences, so you need to have that baby?
In one respect, like, yes, but in another respect, no, because like when I think about, maybe it's just because like my family is obviously Black and Southern, I think about a lot of molestation happening from the dad to the daughters.
Okay.
Like that was very, very common for like the dad or, the grandpa to be sleeping with his girl children, and or the uncle that we, don't talk about, like sleeping with these young girls in our families. So like those things were common. Now, not common in my family, but common in other families in the South. So
assaulting them. We can't say sleeping with them.
Yes, assaulting them, molesting them.
Yes.
Like they weren't able to say no, they are children. So like literally, Papa's a pedophile. So like if we're really, gonna go there, we're gonna go there. So abortions back then were looked down upon. They wanted you to pretend like it wasn't your dad that had assaulted you. So like I think that was the reality and why, the abortions weren't really, looked highly upon.
And I don't know what Micah has in store for us as far as content with this question, but I want to deal with the fact that we don't teach safe sex in church growing up. We don't deal with that. So we're not teaching, as a young man, we're not teaching young men about safe sex, about condoms, about how babies are actually made. Like we're not learning any of this. We're just told don't have sex till marriage.
Right.
So do you think that, I'm glad you brought that up. Do you think that teaching only abstinence is an issue?
Yeah.
I believe so. I mean,
sure.
we can tell and encourage people to live a certain lifestyle if you're growing up as a Christian. Mm-hmm. I think that is totally that's totally the right motive and how you're going to move. But if I'm not learning anything about, okay, this is what I'm trying to protect you from, this is what you need to learn, this is what you need not to do, my mind automatically is going to go, okay, what am I missing out on? And so if I'm not getting that in the church, which is supposed to be a safe space, I'm getting it out in the world. And that's the issue.
I do think like oftentimes the church doesn't talk about other modes of like sex protection or condoms or birth control because they're trying to push the narrative that you're not supposed to have sex until marriage because fornication is a sin. And fornication is always a sin. So like with that being said, they're like, well, we're not going to teach them about safe sex. However, if your parents spend all day at church, then you're not really hearing those messages. And my church, when I was growing up, was very similar. Like they didn't really talk about other, forms of safe sex until the girls start showing up pregnant. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, let's bring the nurse in to talk about, what happens when you have sex. And like, they're going to get pregnant or you can get STDs. And, I think there's a way to teach your children about it in a safe zone where they can ask their questions. And you can also make it known, like, these are the risks of having sex. And it's better for us to have the conversation that you think you're ready for you're ready to have sex, so we can talk about what those risks are and how they can be averted, or, why you want to do what you want to do.
I think my first time tongue kissing a girl was on a church conference. Like,
Most people's experience is like at
fifth
church.
or sixth grade. It was at a tongue
youth events.
Youth events, and it's
church camp.
We had
all those times you just push those kids to the back. Those kids are acting out and doing the mass downstairs, acting a fool.
Throwing us in the back, but we're thinking then. So what happens is now we're becoming more legalized. Where it's only sex if I put my penis inside her vagina.
Come on now.
And so then we're like, all right, well,
oral sex
I can have some oral sex. So now you got girls that's out here giving head. You got guys out here giving head.
And getting herpes.
Getting syphilis, getting all type of other stuff because you're not teaching them, okay, there are different contraceptives to protect you if you want to give oral. Then you're like, all right, you got girls out here that's just giving anal. So they're giving up the butt. And you're like, well, that's not sex because I can't get pregnant from it, but
Jesus.
That's a whole nother level of what you're getting into. So we're not teaching kids about this. You got people out here doing, handies and, just all type of different stuff. If you're going to say that abortion is wrong, you gotta promote safe sex in church.
Yeah, I agree with that because so many times like girls are getting caught up and it's an avoidable situation. Like, just knowing how to properly use a condom, getting on birth control, being able to talk to your doctor, those things are all very possible. Now, not as possible as it used to be because some states don't allow for, certain conversations with your doctor anymore. I won't speak too much on that, but I will definitely say that it is harder now than it was before, but it's still very possible to be able to have safe sex.
Yeah.
And my mom used to always say, like, if you don't want to have no kids, don't have no sex. If you think you're ready for sex, then you were telling me that you're ready for kids. And then she used to break down the cost of how much it costs to have a kid. Now, her costs are pretty underwhelming. We have a child now, and I'm like, hey, the cost is way higher. Way higher than you said it was. But it's still a hefty price just to have a child. Like, it is not cheap, and we as a society don't necessarily do a great job of providing for care for kids if the mother can't afford it, because we make that like standard of where you work and how much you can earn so low that she basically has to be impoverished to be able to get care for the kids.
What you just said, what you just said is the issue. You're like, oh, don't have sex until you're ready for kids. Well, they're gonna have sex. And then somebody winds up getting pregnant and they're going to remember, well, I'm not ready for kids, abortion. And that's the issue because we're not training and teaching people. I learned how to put on a condom from watching TV.
Really?
I didn't learn how to put on a condom in church. I didn't learn how to.
They didn't teach you the banana trick?
No banana trick. It was porn. We watching porn. So that's what I learned. Like, it was not, I didn't learn how
TV. I thought, like, what were you watching?
No, I didn't learn how to put on a condom. So I'm like, imagine that. Like, all right, if I'm 13, 14, 15, I've never learned about anything about sex. I'm with a girl and I'm about to have sex. I know nothing about anything.
13?
People were losing virginities early, like 11, 12.
That's right, because the first girl that showed up pregnant at our school was in the 5th grade. What was that, 10? We were 10.
Wow.
10.
10, and she was pregnant. I remember we were at the store. My mom and I are at Walmart because my mom loves Walmart. And she's like, I'm like, hey, can we buy some diapers? And she was like, for who? And I was like, oh, the girl at school got pregnant. And she was like, the girl at your school? Your elementary school? Like, yeah, she was legit 10. And she was pregnant with her first child. I don't know where that girl is now, but I hope you're doing well.
Quick question, okay? Before we roll up out of here, because this is something I do want to ask you. I talked to you all on the phone yesterday about this, but what do you think about this statement? Most Bible-believing Christians and most right-wing conservatives aren't really pro-life. They're just pro-birth.
Yes, I agree with that statement because They want you to have this child to have it. Hey, the child's on the earth. You know, God wants you to have this child. The child is here in the earth living. Great. But then after that, they don't want to provide the care for that child. So if you're voting conservative, you're trying to get rid of all the welfare programs. Well, the welfare programs are to take care of these kids. So it's to make sure the kids have health insurance. It's to make sure the kids are fed and have formula and have food and have housing. So if you're saying I am pro-life, then you need to be pro the whole child's life, not just pro them birthing. You're pro-birth. You're not really pro-life. Pro-life is making sure that somebody has access to the basic tenets of living: food, water, housing, and that includes formula. That includes clothing for the baby. And not just a baby, but like a toddler, a child, a teenager. So we need to make sure we're able to provide for the children in our community, but we don't do a good job of that. And foster care is terrible. Like, it's absolutely horrible. Kids are getting raped in foster care. Kids are getting taken advantage of. Their money's being stolen. And they don't do necessarily a great job of releasing them into the world. It's like you turn 18 and they're just like, goodbye, like, good luck. And that's not really pro-life. Pro-life is like making sure people have a good life, even a decent life. Not just, oh, they birth them into the world.
I have a lot of thoughts with that, so I don't know
Say your thoughts.
which way with that, but I think that it's probably a way to keep people in a perpetual system of bondage. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have the money to take care of the child, you're consistently having children, then you're consistently gonna need, you're gonna need help and you're not gonna get it. So if we cut off the funds, we cut off your system of welfare and having resources, then I can keep you in a system of bondage.
Like poverty bondage?
Poverty bondage.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, I think for a lot of wealthy people, they're always thinking about how can we stay on top. Well, you can only stay on top if somebody's at the bottom. So if you're really saying, oh, I want to be on top, who are you stepping on? So we're stepping on impoverished people. How can we force them to have children? Like, a lot of this new policy is because people stop having kids. They're like, oh, well, they're taking the Plan B. Oh, they're actually using their birth control. We need to get rid of all that so that we can make sure we have manufacturer workers. We can make sure that we have people to work at Walmart. Even though all these jobs are going to be replaced by robots, they want to make sure until the robots are ready, we need bodies.
The robots.
Yeah, I truly believe that robots are going to take over everything, and there's going to be very little jobs for people to do, which means they're going to have to figure out a way to do away with all these people. When you're thinking about like, oh, abortion is just like a Christian versus non-Christian topic, that's not even true. It is a political topic based solely to make sure the poor stay poor.
Oof. I mean, I'm with you when you're right. So my last question to y'all, Theresa got passionate. My last question would be this.
It really bothers me.
What would you say to somebody who is ashamed because they might go to church on Sundays and, hear preachings and tell them that they're a sinner and they're wrong? What would you say to the young woman or an older woman who's had an abortion in her past and then she feels like, she feels the weight of that every single day?
The Lord still loves you. There is nothing that can separate you from God. So if you feel abortion is wrong, all you need to do is repent, and there is nothing that can separate you from the Lord. So at the end of the day, Jesus still loves you. There's still a place for you in heaven. You can still get a crown.
I think you need to use it as your testimony, not as something that's embarrassing. I think a lot of people, we still live in a society where people are ashamed about their past and not realizing that there's a lot of people that are dealing with the same thing that you're dealing with. So if you're able to overcome that and people can see that, yo, this person dealt with that situation, this person overcame that situation, this person found love, found somebody that loved them, know that God still loves them and overcame that, I think that you can help other people. So, you know, he causes in the scripture and Bible, it says like he causes all things to work together for your good. And I think that even when we make a mistake, even when we're not, you know, these perfect individuals that we try to portray in social media or whatever, when those things happen, real life events happen, and we're able to be, you know, transparent with those things and overcome them, we're able to help other people. Cheers. Cheers to another successful episode.
Cheers.
Our question for this week is, what is your stance on abortion?
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and click that notification bell.